All right, so here's a pig. As you can see, again, looks untouched. Everything's just going on inside cellularly at this point. You can see the body is starting to bloat in the putrefaction stage. You can also see right here that there is discoloration, and I want to take this time right now to make a note of something from chapter 14, because you will need to know this for your test. Okay, the discoloration that you see is the result of the blood pooling on the body due to gravity, because it's not flowing anymore, and that is called livor mortis, Livor, and then mortis is Mortis. Okay, the other two mortises that I want you guys to also know are algor mortis, and that is the cooling of the body after it's dead, and that can be affected by various things: environment, clothing, body mass, stuff like that. The body normally cools at about a rate of 1 to 1.5 degrees per hour until it reaches ambient temperature, or the temperature surrounding it. And also rigor mortis, which is the rigidity of the skeletal muscles after death. And that can vary depending on the time of death, how much the muscles are worked, other factors like that. Okay, so rule of thumb with rigor mortis is that if the body is warm and the body's not stiff, then you can estimate that they've probably been dead for less than 3 hours. If they're warm and stiff, they've been dead between 3 to 8 hours. Cold and stiff, 8 to 36 hours. And if they're cold and not stiff, they've been dead for more than 36 hours. Okay. Going back to algor mortis, because I forgot to include this, in order to estimate how long the body has been dead using temperature, they'll use something called the Glaser equation, which you can find on page 414 in your book. And essentially, what you do is you take 98.4 degrees and you subtract the initial body temperature, or excuse me, the internal body temperature, and they'll take that with the in the liver, and then they'll divide it by 1.5, and that gives you the hour since death, or the approximate hour since death. All right, so on this next test, again, make sure that you look at pages 414 and 415. Even though they're in chapter 14, I am including that information here. All right, so this is the putrefaction bloating stage, and again, you can see livor mortis in action there because of gravity. All right, black putrefaction, the body is collapsed, skin's split open, you can see all the maggots there. At this point, there's going to be a really strong odor, and as you can see around here, all the internal liquid stuff has leaked out. Butyric fermentation, there's going to be cheesy odor, grass around here is dying. You can start seeing a lot more bones and skin and less flesh. And then by this stage, the dry decay stage, you're seeing a lot more bones. Even the skin is starting to disappear at this point. The grass around it has been completely killed off due to the acids and chemicals in the body. All right, there you go. All right, so insects will go through metamorphosis. Some will go through complete metamorphosis, and complete includes an egg, a larva or maggot, pupa, and then a winged adult. But not all insects go through a complete metamorphosis. All right, this is the blowfly cycle. We've done this already, but again, it shows all the information of the different stages. Remember, for the larval stage, there are 3 instars. Okay? All right, variables affecting metamorphosis. Temperature. The higher the temperature within limits, the faster the growth. We saw that. If you decrease the temperature, it increases the amount of hours it takes to go between different cycles. All right, the habitat. Okay, fly species do get affected by the seasons, climate, and the habitat. Okay, I like through my notes here. Okay, so the black blowfly, which is Phormia regina, this guy prefers shade, and the guy on the right, Lucilia illustris, or the green bottlefly, prefers sunlight areas. So if you find Phormia regina on a corpse in the sun, you know that it's probably been moved. Okay. Now, okay, let's see. All right. So insects will arrive in certain orders. You'll have certain species coming at different times. Okay, this is what's called succession. Okay, so when you collect insects off a body, you can identify their species, and that will determine the types, or roughly a timeline for you. The big ones that we are going to be covering are Callifornidae, Sarcophagidae, Muscidae, and Piophilidae, and those are your different types of flies. Okay, so blowflies, flesh flies, and house flies. Okay, so Callifornidae would be your blowflies. Okay, Sarcophagidae are your flesh flies. And what's interesting about Sarcophagidae, so these guys right here, is that instead of laying eggs, they lay live maggots. So if you can identify that, you can say, hey, you know what, these lay live maggots, and that can be important. And then houseflies fall under Muscidae. Okay, and later on, even though it's not listed here, Piophilidae or Piophilidae, these are called cheese skippers, and they are scavengers, so they come in late stages. For beetles, we get Staphylinidae, which are your roved beetles first, followed by Sylphidae, which are your carrion beetles. Hysteridae are your clown and hyster beetles, so these guys right here. Domestidae or domestic beetles, followed by Scarabidae, Scarabidae, and these are your hide beetles. Okay, and those last two are actually found in the later stage of decomp. So if you find those guys there, you'll know the body's been there for quite some time. And if you want to go into, if you want to look at those notes, if you look at pages 389 for the flies, and then 390 for the beetles. All right. In other ways we can use forensic entomology, we can look at damage to structures, clothing, wounds on a corpse linking a suspect to a scene, contraband. Insects can trace vehicle movement, and we can also determine if there have been drugs in the body based on what we find in the insects. And this right here is just a little bit of an instruction manual on how you collect insects from the body and around the body. Okay. If you want to read it. All right, and then there's a case study. We already discussed this, so I'm going to let you guys read that. That should be it. So move that down here. So, all right, guys, so this is chapter 13. Again, please remember you answer your questions on the forms along with the questions from chapters 15 and 16 as well. All right.